Vriska Circuit is undoubtedly one of the most controversial characters of Homestuck. She's often what people think of when Homestuck is brought up, with a wide array of different reactions to her mention. In the fandom, her supporters are known for being a little bit delusional, and considering I'm making a video defending her, and she's one of my favorite trolls, maybe that makes me delusional too. I love Vriska for her complexity and murky morality throughout Homestuck. As much as she's done awful things by human standards, I don't believe we can blame her that harshly for the things she's done. Since she was a grub, she's been put under huge pressure to be strong, to survive, to live up to her ancestor, and to provide. And in the end, she's only 13, and just like everyone else, it's her first time living. What I feel impacted Vriska the most was the nature of her lusus. When Vriska used to play Flarp with her friends, she took the bodies left behind from their sessions to feed to her lusus, which likely desensitized her to violence and death. Not to mention the threat of what would happen if she didn't provide enough for her lusus. Spider Mom could very well eat Vriska's neighbor and friend Equius, or eat her in need for food. It can be seen that Luci care for their grubs, but in the end, they're still animals, and I doubt Spider-Mom would deny herself easy food while starving, even if it were her own child. Imagine living in fear for 13 years, that the person who's meant to care for you and protect you might eat you because you can't provide for her. Whether this is because she feels guilt for the young trolls she kills, or she simply finds it tedious, we don't know. A common counterargument I've seen for this is that Pfeffery does the same thing, but she isn't cruel like Vriska is. In actuality, Eridan does most of the work to keep Pfeffery's lusus calm, feeding her the Luci he kills and following in the steps of his ancestor, Orphan or Dualscar. Additionally, Pfeffery is just very strange for a troll. She's uniquely kind and compassionate, and were she to be of any other caste, she would likely not survive long on Alternia. Pfeffery is simply alive due to her privilege as a fuchsia blood, of which Vriska is not. Similarly, when Vriska was young, she didn't have the best role models. For highbloods especially, it's seen as fate for you to follow the footsteps of your ancestor, and Vriska has taken heavy guidance from Spinneret Mindfang's journal. Mindfang's life closely mirrors Vriska's. This was likely the origin of Vriska's self-importance, believing she was destined to become a powerful, feared pirate. Some of the most obvious parallels between Vriska and Mindfang appear when it comes to the Nitrums. Mindfang had seen with her Vision Eightfold that she would become romantically involved with the Summoner, then later kill him. Although this never happened due to the intervention of neophyte Redglare, it's similar to how Vriska showed interest in Tavros, but was later responsible for his murder. Vriska is mostly hated for her treatment of Tavros, which is understandable. When I first read Homestuck, I also hated her for the same reason, though I'm now a huge fan of her. She disabled him, disadvantaged him in many ways, and then killed him, all for seemingly no reason. In canon, we don't exactly know Vriska's reasoning for treating him this way. What we do know, though, is that Vriska is attracted to Tavros, seeming to flip between red and black attraction. Vriska is likely just very emotionally inept and didn't know how to react to her feelings. On the old MSPA forums, Andrew Hussey said that, quote, "This is just the way someone of her kind views romance and goes about it, aggressively and predatorially. You could even postulate that paralyzing him in the first place was part of the entire courtship process for her, though possibly a subconscious one. Spiders paralyze their victims. Perhaps not their mates, but the principle of predation applies more broadly here to romance as well." End quote. A lot goes back to the nature of trolls, the violence they're so used to, and Alternian culture. Another thing that helps people realize she isn't as bad as she seems is that not everything she does is her idea, or something she even wants to do. In the Team Charge was a Team Scourge Flarp session, Vriska's disabling of Tavros starts a cycle of revenge that comes back around to her. It all starts with Vriska using her mind control to make Tavros throw himself off a cliff with the intention to kill him. He's paralyzed, and Aradia retaliated by summoning the spirits of the trolls Vriska fed to her Lucis to haunt her. This greatly distresses her, and she gets a message from Doc Scratch, who she's in close contact with at this time. Doc Scratch antagonizes Vriska and coerces her into killing Aradia. He says things like, quote, "You know you're going to anyway. You won't be able to help yourself," end quote, to make Vriska see herself as an inherently violent person. She was also egged on to kill Tavros by Doc Scratch. In the same conversation, she additionally says she never really wanted to kill Tavros, even though she hated him. She says that, quote, "These games were just supposed to be fun and serve no other purpose," end quote. The main thing that made me love Vriska, though, is how she changes in the pre-retcon timeline, and even apologizes. Something I see frequently overlooked is how Vriska does show remorse in some ways for her actions. The main one being after how she killed Aradia, she had Equius create a soulbot for her ghost to live in. Although she made up for it how she could, she was still beaten by Aradia within an inch of her life, and Aradia did not forgive her. This event ends the whole Team Charge versus Team Scourge conflict. Vriska no longer tries to get back at anyone, and has experienced the consequences that were coming for her. She later on changes quite a lot for the better, but only after her death. When Terezi kills Vriska after foreseeing the consequences of letting her live, it's ruled as a just death. Pre-retcon Vriska, also known as Punk Vriska, appears in the dream bubbles. Here, there's no real threats. For a while, she's able to live relatively peacefully. She dates a dead version of John for a bit and meets Hussey. She's brought back to life for a bit when her body is prototyped with Tavros's, but Tavros' sprite explodes due to how incompatible the two are. After appearing back in the dream bubbles, Vriska and Tavros talk. Vriska is still very much like her old self, treating Tavros poorly and making fun of him, but she ends up apologizing for killing Tavros, calling herself a bitch and insisting it's her fault, even when Tavros puts himself down. For a while, Vriska joins forces with Tavros and Mina, along with an army of ghosts, to locate the ultimate weapon and take down Lord English. During this, Vriska enters a relationship with Mina, and this is when I believe you can see the most change in Vriska's character. She's happier, softer, and lets herself feel safe. You can even see a physical change, as she braids her hair, gets a tattoo, and changes her style to mirror Mina's, who has recently brought a lot of joy into her life. This happiness ends, though, when Mina and Vriska meet post-retcon Vriska. Post-retcon Vriska tears into Punk Vriska, and in this scene, you can see just how much she's changed since dying. Post-retcon Vriska is disgusted by her alternate self for her supposed weakness. She berates her for being selfish, not helping others, for becoming weak. She doesn't believe this life to be worth anything, saying that Punk Vriska is not really happy. In this scene, post-retcon Vriska even mocks Punk Vriska for gaining weight, though it shows to us that she doesn't have to struggle to feed herself anymore. Post-retcon Vriska still can't see past her own selfish, heroic desires because she was never punished for her actions and is still living the stressful life that requires her to be as cutthroat as she is. Punk Vriska, crying, tells Mina not to listen to her other self and that they should leave. Mina hesitates, conflicted, but decides to break up with Punk Vriska and follow post-retcon Vriska to continue their hunt for the house-shaped Juju and take down Lord English. Mina explains that Punk Vriska has become much more vulnerable, and she doesn't trust herself with other people's emotions like that. Punk Vriska later on meets pre-retcon Terezi, the version of her friend she grew up with. They hold on to each other, watching the cracks in the dream bubble spread. Despite the fact that their world is physically falling apart around them, Vriska is happy. She's with someone she loves, and there's nothing more for them to do. As I see it, Vriska is undeniably a victim of her circumstances. She's selfish, aggressive, and brash, but that's how she's kept herself, Lucis, and her friends alive. She's a hero, even though it's to serve her own desires and perception of herself. She's also only 13 years old, and was manipulated into many of her worst actions by an older man. She's not an inherently evil person, and when given a safe environment, she flourishes. I think it's very easy for people to skim right over this part of her personality and miss the depth that her character holds. Anyways, that's about all I have to say. I procrastinated quite a bit on the script, and this video should be out by Christmas. And if you're viewing it on Christmas, Merry Christmas. And if not, have a good day. That's about it. Thank you for listening. I don't really know what kind of video I'm gonna do next. I haven't decided that yet. I'm probably gonna wait a little bit before doing another Homestuck video, and also I'm rambling. I'm gonna shut up now. Bye!